Are you looking to build an exceptional team? Our hiring toolkit bundle at LuAnnNigara.com/store is your comprehensive source for success. Craft compelling job descriptions, know the right interview questions to ask, and implement a thorough evaluation process so you get the right person. These were developed in collaboration with my cousin Eileen Hahn and based on her 40 years of experience in building exceptional teams, plus my insights from 1,000 plus interviews. Our toolkits are tested and proven. Whether you're scaling from 1 to 3 or from 3 to 10 or from 10 to 20, the hiring toolkit bundle provides the guidance that you can use to plan your hiring strategy effectively. Go to LuAnnNigara.com/store and invest in your success by investing in the success of your team. Welcome to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. It's Power Talk Friday. Today, Pippa Biddle, the co-founder and CEO of Quittner, is joining me. Quittner is a lighting and homewares design practice in New York's Hudson Valley. Pippa and I have a mutual friend in Kate Wood. Kate is a chairman of the board alumni, and she's been on the podcast before talking about the aha that she had during our time together about who she is, who she serves, and how she explains these two to her potential consumer. It's a great episode, often commented on when I meet you in real life, and we will be sure to link that in the show notes. I am so glad that Kate introduced me to Pippa, and the timing for this episode is a little crazy pants. Frankly, our conversation today hit me right between the eyes. I won't go into the details before we get started, but trust me, you're going to want to keep listening. I'll tell you all about it and how this came at such a crucial moment for me personally in the outro. Pippa is someone who understands the power of storytelling on a deep level. She has a degree in creative writing from Columbia. She has written for publications like The Atlantic and Wired, and she continues to write for magazine Antiques. Together with her husband, Benjamin Davidson, she brings that narrative expertise to Quittner, where they design and create beautiful lighting and homewares. But today's conversation isn't primarily about product design. It's about how Pippa has transformed their business using one of the most underutilized marketing tools in our industry, the newsletter. Do you have a newsletter? Whether you do or you don't, Pippa has some great ideas for getting started or to keep evolving and growing your following right along in your audience's inbox. No daily posts, no algorithms. I love it. Pippa is going to share how she evolved from dry corporate communications to creating a newsletter that actually builds community, drives sales, and has become their single most powerful marketing tool. If you've ever struggled with finding your authentic voice or questioned the ROI of email marketing, then this conversation is for you, my friend. Now, you might be thinking, I already have so much to do. How can I add writing a newsletter to my plate? Well, let's take something off your plate. How about that? How about the sourcing, the ordering, the tracking shipments? You know, this is a full-time job all on its own. Managing multiple vendor accounts, chasing updates, dealing with back orders and freight issues. It's exhausting and steals time from what you do best. Designing and working on a newsletter that now maybe you might be inspired to do. That's why Design Trade Service exists. They handle the hassle for you. One account, one order, one point of contact. Access hundreds of top brands with exclusive designer net pricing. No membership fees, no headaches. They consolidate orders, track shipments, and keep you updated so you don't have to chase it. Take back your time. Open your free account today at designtradeservice.com/LuAnn and let the DTS team do the heavy lifting so that you can focus on design and, like I said, maybe a brand new newsletter. All right, let's welcome Pippa Biddle to A Well-Designed Business. Hey, Pippa, thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Thank you, LuAnn, for having me. I really appreciate it.
So I'm looking forward to this conversation on multiple levels, Pippa. First of all, we share a very, very dear friend, Kate Wood, and she recommended you to the podcast. And I, when I'm with somebody who also loves somebody that I love, I'm kind of like, well, then I guess I just love you too. Like I'm already there.
I feel the same way.
Yeah. So I'm excited on that level, but I'm also excited on this other level because, we're going to get into it, but you have this point of view for your business that, well, I'm not even going to do it. I'm not even going to do it. Let's just back up. Pippa, give us the explanation of who and what your business is. It's a little different business model than a lot of business models that we see on the show. And I think it will help all of us for you to explain that. And then I'll get into my question that's sticking at the top of my brain for you.
Yeah. So Quittner is a design practice and manufacturer in the Hudson Valley of New York. We started in 2018, just my husband and I, with an iPad and a storage unit full of antiques. And we always were in the business of restoration. And as we worked on things, we learned about what lasts and where good design is. And after repairing 1,000 light fixtures, we started designing them. First, just for our own home. And then people started asking, well, where'd that come from? And we pointed to our workshop and they asked us to make them for them too. So today we primarily design and make ourselves lighting and homewares. We work in porcelain, brass, and ceramic materials primarily. And it's all here in the Hudson Valley. So what we sell, we make with our own hands.
I love it. So clarify for me, what is homewares? What is that? What is that category?
Yeah, homewares is basically anything the lights that we build shine on. So it's linens, it's vases, it's planters, it's key fobs and candles. We have become really obsessed with material. And so if it's possible for us to make something for our home, we make it. So we have a loom in our store. We have a retail store in Germantown, New York. Right now, the loom is being rewarped. We are making trivets and runners and placemats on the loom. We did not come into this blind. My husband and I have known each other since we were young children. And we both went to the same summer camp, which is a benevolent cult in the Adirondacks of New York. And so I've been working on a loom since I was 8 years old. I've been making candles since I was 8 years old. Rather than sort of continuing into adulthood, pushing the things that we loved into our quote unquote free time, we've just decided to give up on free time altogether and do the things we love all the time.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Okay. So, just for clarity, when you say designers and makers, we're not talking about space planning, furniture, placement, selection. When you say designers, you're designing the lighting, the homewares. That's what you mean. You're designing product. You're product designers.
Yes, we design product and we work with interior designers and architects on both using the product in our collection and also creating custom pieces for their projects. So our best clients are interior designers with a vision for a space who want something really special.
Awesome. I love that. Now, another point for clarity. Obviously, Kate is up in the Hudson Valley. Obviously, Kate, we'll link Kate's episode in the show notes, but she's a historic preservationist, right? And so I'm trying to think, how do we come up with the name for it? Was it rehabilitation? I don't know, making it all up. But Kate rehabs historic homes and brings them back to their authenticity of what they would have been in the year they were built, for lack of a better way. She's not taking an old home and putting new windows in it. She is taking an old home that somebody feels committed to putting it back to the way it should be. Right? So you guys are both in the same area of New York State, and you have a similar passion for product and authenticity and all of the things. But what about the designer listening who now goes to your website and loves what you do in your custom designs? Do you do work for designers that are not local as well, Pippa?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things, our workshop is fully UL certified, which is the sort of governing body that says, is this light safe to put into your house? So we often have designers ship us things. One, because we have a background in restoration, a key aspect of what we do continues to be restoring antique and vintage fixtures and modifying them to work up to contemporary standard. So whether it's a designer found a piece in Europe that they want to have rewired to work for a home in the US, or a homeowner has a piece that's special to them that they're asking their designer to make work in a space, but it needs to be modified. That's key to what we do because it also brings us inspiration. It's an opportunity to be hands-on with material. We hold ourselves the same bar as the pieces we work with. Most of the pieces that we restore have lasted a century. Our work too should last a century.
Oh, wow. That's great. That's a great way to look at it. Okay. So I'm clear on what you guys do now. Now, when you sent your pitch in to me, one of the what you said was that, like, I asked, not that I use everybody's name, but I asked them to say, if you could name the episode, what would you name it? And you said, how a newsletter can transform your business. So I can tell you that a year or more ago, I've been like, oh, that's a good topic. That's a good topic. Like, people want to know about that. Now, Pippa, I'm like, please tell me that. You have hit a personal nerve for me because the last couple of months, I have been very strongly pulled into writing more as opposed to speaking more. Now, speaking out in public all day long, sign me up. Please keep hiring me to speak. But making that connection with my colleagues in my audience, I'm feeling much more called to do it through writing. And so it's so funny because this has been on the books for months and months, and here we are. So tell me, what's your take? Why, first of all, do you feel newsletter is a good business strategy? And then get me into the philosophy and how-tos of it, Pippa.
Yeah. So there's so many layers to this. So I'm just going to think about starting from like the top line. So the top line is, if you're thinking simply from a sales strategy funnel, you do not own your audience on social media platforms. You do not have their email addresses, and only a tiny fraction of the people who follow you see what you put out into the world.
The most frustrating
part about it. When I send a newsletter, between 70 and 85% of people open it.
Wow.
Our click-through rate is massive. Our unsubscribe rate is 0.01%. When people come, they stick. And that's, you can't just write anything in a newsletter and have that happen. It requires some strategy, which we can get into. But that is an extremely powerful piece of a sales funnel because they are listening and they are hearing. And when we exist in this world where it feels like there's so much pulling on our attention and we are being dragged in so many different directions, it's extremely affirming to know that the effort turns into results. The effort that goes into a newsletter is seen. It doesn't just disappear. You're not pressing refresh, seeing if a video is getting views. You get to do it and then walk away with the confidence that it got in that email inbox. Yeah. So for me, that's a huge part of it. I think as well, we are really at the heart of Quittner is storytelling. Storytelling is very important to us. Having a reason behind why we do what we do. And I think that's true for so many creative businesses. I've never met an interior designer who doesn't have a story to tell about space and about place and about purpose. And the best way to tell that story is in your own words, in your own format. In a newsletter, you control the format. You control how it shows up on someone's screen. You don't wake up one day and the pictures are a different shape. Oh my goodness. Everyone wakes up and all of a sudden the pictures are a different aspect ratio on Instagram. And everyone's wondering, well, will my caption words be cut off? Like, that's such a silly, it's such a real situation, but it's objectively silly that we would allow a
have so little control.
So little control.
That we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars per month and per year to create the content for that platform.
Well,
right?
And that's the key thing too, is that people are spending money on the photography and often on assistance with social media, with posting and creation. All this money is going into it. And I posit, what if you just be yourself? Like, doesn't mean you can't have support. Doesn't mean photography isn't important. But what if instead of trying to shape who we are as business owners and as creatives to a like evil algorithm, we be ourselves and we decide how we appear in the world? And for us, having a retail store, that really was the foundation for this, was, okay, if we can create a world that we control within this box, this is our world, what would that look like? And then how do we extrapolate on that to the world that is digital? How does our website, how is that? I mean, I built our website. So everything that you see when you see Quittner, down to like every individual color, was me with like a cursor moving around on pixels, figuring out color codes. Like, everything is personal. It also means I can change things whenever I want, which is fabulous. And I've been told to stop periodically by members of our team. But it's personal. And what a beautiful thing in the world of design. We are creating personal spaces for people. The spaces we live in as a business should also feel that close and that tight and that personal. And the newsletter is an opportunity to own your audience and to speak to them authentically as yourself.
I love it. It's hitting me so between the eyes right now. It really is so relevant for me right now. And so my question to you, Pippa, is, I think we've done enough episodes over 9.5 years where the designers and the window treatment professionals listening, they understand, I guess what I want to say. I think there isn't anybody that would argue with your points. Hey, isn't it better to speak authentically? Isn't it better to tell a story? Isn't it better to share your motivation for why this room, turned out the way it did, as opposed to just putting a picture and saying, here's a pretty room, right? Like, the power is in, your intellectual property as an interior designer in, why did you pick that sofa versus that sofa? Why did you put that bookcase versus that bookcase, right? So I think you have us at hello moment, in that 5 or 8 years ago, I might have had to done some more work, in my opinion, to convince our friends listening. At this point, I feel like if you're not convinced, you're not going to get there. So that's okay. So let's move on to the people who get it, the people that are hearing you like me. And honestly, I appreciate every single person that follows me on Instagram. I really do. I do not take 23, 4,000, whatever it is, lightly. But I also know that if 23,000 people have chosen to follow me, what is there? 500 of them that are actually getting the information that we're putting out there. So you've said, hey, Lu, I give a crap about you. I want to know. But, Meta has decided we're not necessarily going to tell her unless LuAnn is doing, Irish jig dances every day and get the algorithm to pay attention, which I won't play the game. And it's not like, it's not a principle thing for me. It's not I won't play the game because you want me to play. I don't have that muscle. I'm not interested in playing that game. I'm like, I don't want to fix cars and I don't want to play Instagram. You know what I'm saying? So taking it, oh my God, you can see how rooked up I am about this. Like I'm all of a sudden, I'm like, you know what? Back it up, girl. This is hitting me personally, right? So taking all that a step further, what goes into a great newsletter? Like, what do I want to do if I'm somebody listening and I've got 10 people on an email list or 500 people on an email list or 10,000 people on an email list? You have to start somewhere. You have to start talking to them, and you have to start, being your authentic self. All of that makes sense. But are there other, I know you're a professional writer, like you literally a degree in writing, have written a book, you've written for a magazine for 100 years. So you kind of have a leg up on the rest of us that are just like, I'm just going to like show up and do this. But are there, like, if I were going to ask you how to restore a 100-year-old light, I don't even know if lights were available 100 years ago. A 70-year-old light. Okay. You'd be like, well, here's the process. We're going to 1, 2, 3, 4. And then there's a part where the process has to be zhuzhed with your artistic maker talent. But there is a process that you're going to take a 100-year-old light to 2025 standards on UL certification. So is there a sort of process on newsletter writing too that you can say, boom,
yeah,
girl, do
100%. I mean, the first thing is commit to doing less to accomplish more. So we've all been fed into this machine that says post, 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 or you're nobody. That's stupid. It's objectively stupid. It's stupid for us personally. It doesn't make us feel good, but it also doesn't actually result in good content. If you go to any publication's website, you'll see this. You'll be like, how did all this trash get on the homepage? It's because they feel this drive to post. So with our newsletter, what we aspire to be is the email people don't regret getting. So something that before we started doing newsletter, my husband and I spent a lot of time looking at what emails we got and which ones did we want to unsubscribe from, but we hadn't yet because we felt guilty because it's because we knew the business owner. And we didn't want to unsubscribe from people that we like, but we didn't like the emails. We did not like the emails. So first it's do less. So for example, we send our digest, which is what our email is called, twice a month. That's it. It comes out twice a month. We send a trade newsletter once a month. They are distinctly different. They have different content. So it's not just reiterating. That's 3 emails total a month. A marketing expert would say that isn't enough if you want to get what they would consider like retail sales. But that's not what you're selling in the design business. You're selling a high ticket item. You're selling a luxury product. You are not trying to get click-through for someone to buy. Like for us, we sell tea towels. Our newsletter is not trying to sell tea towels. Our newsletter is trying to sell Quittner. It's trying to sell us as a brand, as something people are excited about. And so when the email shows up, they shouldn't resent it showing up in their inbox, and they should not move it to the promotions tab. They should want it in their inbox. So I think the first thing is deciding, okay, I'm not going to talk that much, but what I say will matter. And I'm going to give myself a schedule. Being on a schedule matters. I see a lot of people decide to do a newsletter and then start sending it like erratically. They'll send it like 3 times 1 month and then not for another 3 months. It is so much better to pick a schedule and to stick to it. There's so many systems. I honestly just use Google Docs spreadsheets. And I have a teammate who sits down with me the first week of the month every month, and we plan what will be in each of these emails and what do I have to write to do that. Each email, also when you send a newsletter, should be short. It should not have a massive amount of stuff in it. If you write something that is more than 600 words for the opening, no one will read it. It can be the most beautifully written thing in the world, but try reading 600 words on your phone, which is how most people open these things. It's not enjoyable. And someone will be grabbing at your attention and you will not actually absorb what you're seeing. So you can have something important to say. That doesn't mean you need to use a lot of words.
So let me get in the weeds there. So you said your opening should not be more than 600 words. So is that an opening, and then I, choose, like I'm giving, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or is it, no, when I say opening, I mean the whole email?
No, so
is
for
600
me,
words.
the way we structure ours is we have a letter at the top, and then we have sections that change based on which one it is that take people to other things. So for example, we have a blog on our website called The Journal. We don't put those posts into the newsletter. We put a little link with a photo saying, hey, if you want to read about this, go over here. People try to pack way too much into newsletters, and as a result, it all gets blurry. We know that like clarity of vision is so important when we're working with our clients. You cannot offer them, oh, you could have this and this and this and this. You need to be clear. You need to have a set direction. A newsletter is the exact same thing. You need to be clear. You need to set them on a path and say, hey, these are the 3 things I recommend you read. Or this is the song I'm listening to. Here's something I'm reading. And here's a project that recently came out that I want you to check out. But you need to be really direct, because we live in an attention economy, and that's not new information. The most valuable thing that we can have is people's attention. And our attention spans have regrettably become more and more fragmented, and it's harder to hold someone's attention. And so what I aim to do when I speak to our audience is to draw them in through an initial letter, through an initial note to the reader, and then give them a few very concrete action items that they can choose to take. That's almost like a choose your own adventure. Do you feel like shopping? Okay. Do you feel like looking at pretty photos? Or do you feel like learning about something?
Okay. So to recap, the opening that's 600 words or less is that letter at the top.
Yes.
And then you're saying, what your point is that in the opening, are we teasing those 3 pieces of content, or the opening and then the tease? Or is it?
I mix it all together. Everyone can choose to do things their own way. I mix it all together. And I will say that for me, like in this specific climate that we're in right now, the opening has to do with design and aesthetics, but it also has to do with a sense of disillusionment and confusion and fear, honestly, given the economy. And
you mean you're a regular human living in our world in 2025?
And you say that laughing, but that's actually wildly important. I think that with the way social media has grown, people have become very comfortable putting on the face of a sort of public-facing persona. And through that, they lose being a person. Being a person is the most valuable thing you can do in a person business. We are in the business of people. Someone has to decide to work with you, and they're not just deciding based on your pictures and your portfolio. They're deciding on you. Who are you? Do you speak to who they are? And so it's not, I personally don't so for example, we do not share photos of our child on social media or on any of our communications as a business. Sometimes he's seen from behind, but we do not put his face anywhere. We've decided that part of our personal life does not go into our business. So it does not go into our newsletter. But I will mention, hey, he just said that daffodils are nature's smile. How cool is that? And so that will make its way into newsletter, because there's a way to link it to something else that I'm saying, and maybe a photo of a project that we did with daffodils on the kitchen table. And so there's ways to link things together, but it should feel personal. I also think about the creators designers, when you look at who designers follow, the creators that they are most often drawn to are ones who have put their humanness forward and in the front. Yes. Many of them started doing that before the algorithm changed. So it can be a bit misleading, because you'll see this massive following and you'll be like, wait, I'm doing that same thing and I'm not getting that following. Yeah, it's really hard to get followers right now. It's very hard to grow on social. But that actual instinct of putting your humanness forward is the right instinct. So why not bring it to a platform like a newsletter where it's celebrated and where you have control over it?
Okay.
I think we don't want to be learning the lesson that we should just be creating cat videos. Like, that's not the lesson.
No, it's insane. Right. Unless, you breed cats.
Unless
that's a different story.
Yes. Unless you specifically design apartments for people with a lot of cats. It's funny because my cat is like 2 feet away from me right now. Just like following around.
Wait, don't diss cat videos, Pippa.
But this is not the business we're in.
That's what your cat said.
And exactly. Well, that's not the business we're in. And it can, sometimes you can look at what you're being drawn towards on social media and be like, what? Why is that an impulse I have right in this moment? And the reality is it's not who you are. So instead, step back, disconnect, reconnect with who you are and what you want to say to the world. And then say it through a forum that actually celebrates your voice and one that you control. And for me, newsletters are this fabulous way. Some people use Substack if they don't have their own website that they can like run things through. Substack is a very useful tool for that. And you can see this in who's going to Substack right now. Many of the most interesting creatives are stepping back from platforms like Instagram and instead choosing a more text-heavy, static image-heavy platform like Substack. Now, should we simply chase things because other people are doing them? No, we should be doing what affirms us. So if you're someone who genuinely loves creating video, that may make sense to still put a lot of attention into. And maybe in a newsletter, you're linking to videos that you've created. But something I've found in the interior design sphere, most of us don't love creating videos. That's not why we got into this business. Design is what we want to be doing. So how do we create avenues through which to talk more and show more design and to spend more of our time on it and not waiting to see if people are watching the video we made?
Right. So the thing is, I want to just emphasize what you just said for clarity. Right? If you enjoy Instagram and you like to do stories and reels about your trip to the tile shop and your walkthrough on the thing, look, I think what you're saying is that I speak for me. I have done Instagram for 9 years because I'm supposed to. That's the only reason why. I am supposed to. When I started an online business, people who are smarter than me said, you need an Instagram. And I'm like, okay, fine. Right? But it's not like when I think of like Corey Damon Jenkins, he is superb at his Instagram. The man shows up, to your point. He doesn't just say, oh, here's the job I was at. There's 15 lines. Jason Saft, also Stage to Sell. Holy crow. These two men, their Instagrams, you really, to your point, you're in their day, you're in their mind, you're in their heart, they're sharing. It is, so I don't think you're saying that if your medium is this social platform or that, if your medium is video or not. I think the through line is, are you willing to show up with the stories? And if you are, great. And if Instagram is the place, fine. But if it's not, then the other option is a newsletter. Is what I'm hearing.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
and you're also, the bonus is that you own it as opposed to Instagram.
Absolutely.
Right?
I mean, I joined Instagram in 2010, which is the year Instagram came out. I was in high school.
Wow.
Obviously, our business did not exist at that time. I hope that's obvious. I know this platform intimately. I joined Facebook within months of it opening up to private high schoolers, which was, it sort of went through a tiered opening. I've been on these platforms most of my life. These platforms do not make our lives better unless we feel fueled by them. So if you are someone who feels fueled by it, then there's amazing ways to layer what you're doing on social media with a newsletter and get compounding returns on it. But if you are not someone who feels fueled by it, We should stop insisting that people fit themselves into that hole. That is not the only way to exist in the online universe. And in fact, most designers do not have a very strong pipeline of clients coming through social media platforms. They have a strong pipeline of clients coming through images and through communication. It's not Instagram who's getting you a client. It's how you're existing in the world. And that happened to pop up on their Instagram. So I encourage people to prioritize a newsletter, getting people to sign up for a newsletter, getting their email address, and then using that as a storytelling vehicle that cannot simply disappear overnight should someone decide to delete the platform. Like that's part of the challenge here, is that we all sort of exist at the whim of a massive corporation that doesn't care about us. Right. And so that's a really precarious way to live, and a precarious way to run a business. Like the premise that a business would exist on that knife's edge is not good. And so how do we diversify what we're doing such that we have a community that is here for us regardless? I think we can all agree that like email as an entity is not about to disappear. So those email addresses are valid. That is important. Right. And that is something to nurture and grow. I think for a number of years, people have really ignored that. They've been so focused on follower count that they really haven't considered, what do I actually own here? And what is my platform? Who is my audience really when you distill it down? And I'm really interested in how to connect with people who are interested in what we're doing in a way that feels authentic and engaging for me. I think Kate Wood's honestly a perfect example of this, and seeing her work with you is really inspiring, because she does amazing work on Instagram, but she does an amazing newsletter. And her newsletter is fabulous. I do not save her Instagram posts. I do save her newsletter. Like, I can forward her newsletter to people who aren't on Instagram. I can say, hey, look at this. This is really cool. What's happening here? It exists in my world. That newsletter exists in my world far longer. It's far stickier than a single post. Now, she also figures out ways to have crossover in it, which is something that I think about a lot as well. Doing guest blog posts for another designer or another company, then putting those in the newsletter, and then also putting them on social. So figuring out ways to make content sticky, making it work for you. I think one of the things that people bristle at when I get on my like newsletter high horse is like, wait, you're telling me to do more work? No, we all do too much work. I'm asking you to take a little sliver of attention that was already being put into something and transition it to something else. The point is not to add another hour to your workday. It's already full. The point is to make that hour you are already spending actually work for you.
So I love all this. I really do. My question for you is, so to recap, we are going to, commit to a cadence. So it could be twice a month, right? It doesn't have, you do two, what it sounds like, consumer facing and one designer trade facing a month. Is that what it is? Okay. And so, in your experience, if a designer is, well, they don't need to do trade facing unless they have licensed programs and things like that, where there are Corey Damon and the others where they have licensing that they want to sell to other designers. But is twice a month adequate? Does it need to be 3 times if it's 2 consumers? Secondarily, once we get past the opening, so we're going to do the opening is going to talk authentically what's going on in our minds, our hearts, our world. How does it connect to our business? Now, when we go from the opening to 3 tidbits, for example, I always hear in my head, educate, entertain, I don't know, there's a third one that's not popping into my head right now, but I feel like there's three things that we're supposed to do, right? So I know the value of deciding your pillars. I know the value. Like, these are the things that are always going to be important to me. And one might be entertaining, one might be educating, one might be inspiration, whatever it is, right? Do we go to that sort of a formula, Pippa, where we really explore what are the things, and then each post hits those? Like, the reader isn't necessarily going, oh, there's my education piece, there's my entertainment piece, but is that the most effective way to set this up mentally? Because we got to come and do this work. So I don't want to stare at a blank page. I want to be like, okay, what am I doing today? Oh, I need an education piece. I need an entertaining piece. I need a personal piece. I need a industry piece, whatever it is. Or are you like, no, girl, you're really doing the same thing. You're thinking too hard on it. Just write a newsletter.
I think, no, I completely understand what you're saying as far as you want to have a mission. You want to know, okay, what do I have to do to accomplish this goal? And so for me, what I advise designers to do is to take a project and to split it into as many pieces as they can. And each of those pieces can become the topic of a newsletter. So a house should not be one newsletter. That's one, making way too much work for yourself and undervaluing the effort and time and detail that was put into each room. So you break it down as much as possible. So I'll just use a bathroom, for example. So if you were to do a newsletter focused on a bathroom in a project, you would do the opening about maybe the inspiration that went into this bathroom. Whatever your design style, there's something that made you think this is the way to do it. It might be a weird shaped room. It might be some existing traditional aspects. It might be, wow, there's so much space here. How do I fill it? Sometimes I feel that way looking at bathrooms. So whatever it is. And then you dial in. So what color do you pick for the fixtures and fittings? Why? How do you see that? Might be a post that would go then on the website, on a blog that gets linked through the newsletter. How did you pick the tile? Not just the design of the tile, but also how the tile will wear. How will someone feel living on this tile for the next 10, 15, 20 years? How did you get to change out the soft goods, or did you have to figure out how to work with their existing rugs, towels, linens, all of that? Because that can be a challenge when someone says, look, these are the things I've had forever and I don't want to buy new ones. So figure it out. They need to look good in here. Each of those types of aspects can become their own bits of micro content. This follows a similar model to successful social media strategies. So there are ways to integrate this into an existing social media strategy. Maybe you were already planning on doing a post about the tile in the bathroom. And so you just you sit down on a computer and you write the caption of that post, and you write a slightly longer, let's say 500 to slightly longer is a lot. It's a lot longer. 500 to 1,000 word blog post for your website about that same thing, but you do it at once at the same time. You sit down, you set up time once a week to sit down and do this. If you send your newsletter every other week, then it's 2 hours of your time writing, and it's, let's say, 45 minutes formatting, and then you're done. That is actually extremely high value for your time, given that you are getting blog posts, you're getting social media posts, and you're getting a newsletter out of it.
Okay. So what we're saying is, in a single project, now a whole house sounds like months worth of content. If a bathroom, I can get,
Well, and this is actually really important, because I often hear designers say, well, I don't have enough work to confidently put out a newsletter. I don't have enough to say. And I'm like, well, did you do a project in the past year? Yeah, yes. I did. Then you do. You have enough work. Of course, you have to get things photographed. Always so many people on your podcast have said this. Get things photographed, people. It's an investment. It's worth it. But it is, you have the content to tell a story that will resonate with your readers. And I find, just to go back to cadence, I find that Twice a month works perfect for us. I would advise not doing more than once a week. If you show up more than once a week in someone's email box, they're going to resent you and unsubscribe out of spite. Our inboxes are crammed.
Right.
I would not do less than once a month because they'll forget who you are. Right. You want to be a positive in their day. And that's honestly the coolest thing about our newsletter is the number of emails that we get in response to our newsletter each time we send it out of people just saying thank you, which feels a little bit silly to say out loud, but it's extremely meaningful that people are appreciative to have heard from us in a world where it feels like, and we don't do sales. So these are never, our only discount is our trade discount. So this isn't because they're like, oh, thank you for telling us about a great sale. No,
there's a 20% off on that 100-year-old.
Exactly. Like literally they're saying thank you for talking to them.
The information, for the camaraderie.
Yeah.
For
it's very cool. It's very affirming as a business owner and a creative. It fuels me. What power to have something you put out in the world fuel you rather than drain you. So often we feel drained. We have like energy being leached out of us in so many directions. And what I found is that a newsletter and the community that can be built around it can in fact recharge.
Wow. I think, all right, I have philosophical things, but I want to just tie the practical thing in a bow for a second. So if I'm going to recap this strategy, I've got a bathroom. And I look at this bathroom and what was my inspiration? To your point, it could have been any thing. It could be that, there was no beautiful sink tub in it and the homeowner was like, got to have a huge, luxurious tub. So now here's my challenge. Here's my inspiration. The whole room I knew had to come apart. I had to move plumbing because in order to come. So that's the setup, right? But then underneath of it, what you're saying is there's 3 opportunities and it could be, and here was the hunt for the perfect tub. Boom. And there's a blog post on the hunt for the perfect tub with a picture of the perfect tub and what I went through in educating my client about why the $10,000 tub instead of the $5,000 tub. I'm making total things up. I have no idea how much tubs cost, right? And then the second link could be what? It could be, like you said, it could be how I pick the colors, So your point is that I'm telling you about the project. I'm telling you some inspiration about it, but I've written deeper, longer, 500 to 1,000 words on a detail of the bathroom, 3 details. And if somebody chooses to click on and read the full thing about how I picked a $10,000 tub versus how I worked her linens into it, that's my choice as a reader. And probably the better I get at really connecting and speaking from my truth, more likely they're going to say, well, I got to read all of these things because I love Pippa and I'm always entertained. I'm always informed. But when you're getting them new along the way, there might be one piece of candy that tracks them. And then when that blog post is done well, right? So that's the format. What's the closing on this? Is the closing just a couple of lines? See you next time. Have a great life. I'll be back in 2 weeks. Or does it matter at that point?
I'm
very particular.
Yeah, we do a lot of events in our store. Basically, we have a young child. So we host parties and panels and all the things that we wish we could go to, but can't. So instead they make them come to us. So our event schedule is at the bottom. But also just a pretty picture. I think that ending with a photo, ending with something beautiful is all, and that can be a throwback and can be something from the project. The thing that I look at, and because you're talking about clicking and where people click, one of my favorite things is analytics. I am not an analytics expert, but I am an analytics junkie. So I like to go look 1 or 2 weeks after an email goes out and see where people clicked. That's a piece of data that we do not really get on social media, is getting to see what did they click on? What did they care about? Where did they land and how many times did they come back? And so for me, that helps guide me, not necessarily in like dictating what I do in the future, because I try to create content that isn't reactionary. I'm not like optimizing for, I don't know. I don't really care to do exactly what the analytics tell me to do. Maybe I'm just stubborn. That's entirely possible. But
well, we could ask Ben.
Right, well, I think Ben would nod and say, I mean, you'd get a kick out of this, LuAnn. We were, for us, therapy is a business expense. You would understand this as a business owner with your partner.
Idea.
But so we were talking to our therapist, and I said, I think I'm really quite risk averse. And Ben started just cracking up. And I was like, I was like, what do you mean? Like, I am risk averse. I'm careful. He's like, it's not risk averse if every risk just happens to pay off. So I can't say that everything I do is measured in advance, but I can speak to the results. And the result has been a growth in community, a growth in business. I mean, we're putting up really astonishing numbers as our industry, the overall conversation is negative. That isn't a mistake.
Right. And so that's funny that you went to the ROI, because that was the next thing that I had written down that I wanted to ask you is, so obviously a growth in your community, that's a positive sign. If anybody started with 10 people, I just had a conversation with a designer that she's got 10 people on her email list. And I just said to her, you are building your own home. Document it. And I said, I get it. You're documenting on Instagram, but please document it to those 10 people. Just, talk to them. This was the hard thing that happened today. The electrician said I couldn't put the light there, and now I can't have 3 pendants over my thing. How did you fix it? You're a creative entrepreneur. You came with a solution, right? And so the ROI is maybe you have 10 people and a year from now you have 40 people, right? Or the ROI is you went from 500 and you went to 5,000, right? I don't care. But how have you been able to measure the ROI to your business? Like, building your community is awesome, and it's
but we all need money.
Thing. That's it. How have you tracked how it's turned into revenue for the business?
Yeah. So the easiest way to track it is because we have an online store. We can see when people click through and buy things. So I can see number of dollars. However, that's actually not the most interesting thing for me, because someone going through and spending $50 or $500, that's not a meaningful order.
And the rest of us don't all have online stores. Exactly. So that's not even a revenue area for us to achieve.
What matters instead is how many people lead to being clients, and how many people use, this is something people tend to overlook. How many people are referred to you with your newsletter as the vehicle for that referral being shared to their friend? So something we found is that we have clients who are existing clients who forward our newsletter to a friend and say, hey, you should check this out. So that newsletter becomes like an augmented business card. And it's much more valuable than simply being sent a link to our website, because our website is a sales channel. We try to have it be as representative of who we are as people as possible, but there are limitations in that, given that it's a platform for sales. The newsletter is a representation of us. And so when someone receives our newsletter along with a note from a friend saying, hey, you should really consider this for your project, that directly comes back. And you'd be shocked how often we hear, oh, I found out about you through a friend when they sent me your newsletter. And so it's always worth asking too, how did you find out about me?
Oh yeah. Well, that's a non-negotiable.
Yes.
You got to ask everybody how they heard about you. Okay. So the thing about it is it's no different than if we put an ad in our local magazine, if we put, posts on Instagram. It's saying, how did you hear about us? And little by little, and what you're saying is that you absolutely are tracing gross revenue dollars to, my friend sent me your newsletter. She went and bought a lamp with you, or she had you restore this, that, or the other thing. And now I blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Right? It's no different than what's a funny thing is that this is a true statement. There are many, many designers who do get business from Instagram. But when you say many, many designers, and then you say the percentage of all designers in the world that get business from Instagram, now the word many is not actually accurate any longer, right? It's like a relative term. And so I think that if Instagram is filling your pipeline, great, good for you. But there's always that cautionary tale that you don't own Instagram. And please tell me you're at least converting them to your email list, right? Because that's where you do own them.
And not just put them on an email list, but say something to that list.
That's what I'm saying. Get them there so that and cultivate them there as well. And that was the other part of the practical part. When we're creating our newsletter, we're not leaving out. I heard you say we're creating a caption for social. We're not saying leave social. You're just saying put the energy and the heart and soul to the people. And this is literally why this is so timely for me, because if I had a nickel for every time I said this in the last 6 months, I could retire. I say it to my team, I don't understand. I get that we have 24,000 people that put their hand up on Instagram. I said, but Instagram isn't showing our crap to 24,000 people. Meanwhile, we have 10,000 people that put their hand up on email. And what do we do to our email list? We sell to them every week. I'm like, I'm over it. I'm over it. We're gonna go and pay attention to the people who said, yes, LuAnn, talk to me. Like, we got to talk to them. My problem is that I am talking here every week. Right? I am talking 3 times a week between 2 podcasts. And so it's been whoa, how are you going to carve the time out to do that? Right? But that's the whole shift that's coming. And so, but you're not saying close down Instagram. You're saying just feed it there, play the meta game, but put heart and soul to, I think what it is put heart and soul to where it aligns. Like a Jason and Corey Damon, their heart and soul aligns with Instagram. They are performing there. It is working. Right?
I think for most people, social media is junk food. Newsletters are protein. You do not want to turn your protein into junk food. Then it's just junk food too.
Which we've done. Yeah,
so
we've done that.
That's, I think, but that's a very important thing, is to really treat it as protein, to treat it as something that feeds and builds, rather than something that like blasts off some dopamine receptors in someone's brain and then disappears into the background. It doesn't mean junk food doesn't taste good, but you still need protein.
Right. We can't live on Twix. We
can't.
Cookies and Twix, I'm good.
but it's so true, because like you sit there scrolling, and even in the act of creation, you want to think about how someone receives the content. So you might be fed by creating videos on Instagram, but the way that people receive those videos is inherently passive. They are passive recipients. They're not choosing what comes up next. It is being sort of like piped into their brain, and then it's just spewing out the back. With a newsletter, with email, with stickier content, they're choosing to sit down and have that meal. That is really valuable.
Right. They're choosing to open it up and read the opening, and then they're choosing to click through to the things that entice them. And when they really come to understand you and know you and trust you, they probably are clicking, in your case, on all 3 of the tidbits that you put in. But even if they click on just one, it's not relevant. It doesn't matter. They're making their choice to keep going, right?
Well, and something I love seeing as well is seeing how many times a given recipient clicked on it. So it's not rare that a given recipient will click on it open up the newsletter 3 or 4 times, which means that they open it first and they say, oh, I actually want to give this more time. And so they choose to go back to it later. That is so valuable. They are choosing to prioritize what we have to say in their life.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. So, question for you. Have I left anything? I mean, there's a whole nother conversation, which we're not going to start here, is what if I don't have the skills to write, right? Like, but there are copywriters and ghostwriters and, and also too, like whatever you say is what you say. Like, I kind of feel like that. Like, is there bad writing if you're really talking to people who put their hand up and said, I'm interested in what you had to say? There's bad grammar. There's
luckily there's things that help with that.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like, in other words, somebody that doesn't have confidence in writing, somebody that doesn't have experience in writing, I feel like, I mean, it's so funny. I just said to somebody the other day, like Diana, my marketing coordinator, she just sent me a meme today. And the meme is something about like all the AI bots and robots are taking over the world. And there's a frame that it's like it's taking over the world and all the people are getting taken over. And then there's a frame where the bot is like, no, not her. She always says please and thank you. Because literally me and ChatGPT, we are a thing. We are a unit. We are working together daily. And I am consistently, I'm in the paid version. So I am feeding it my work. And I'm consistently saying, you are helping me craft answers from my content, from my book, from my transcripts. We are not saying, go get me an answer out in the universe. Don't tell me what Sandra Funk says about it or Nancy Ganscalfer says about it, right? When I want to know I will go to my book and say, what did they say about this, right? So my point is, when somebody questioned me on it the other day, I said, it's very collaborative. It's like, I have the skill set. I have written 3 books. I can perfect my grammar. I can. I'm not going to get it as good as a grammarian, but I also can just say, here's what I wrote, ChatGPT. Clean it up, right?
Well,
like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, make it grammatically. I think I'm in first and third person between these 6 paragraphs. Clean it up. Like, it's, to me, I said to this person, I said, do you think Saturday Night Live, like if you admire the comedy as far as the skill of the comedy writing, right? Like I also said, like the Dick Van Dyke Show, you guys are all too young to know it, but
is.
like, right? It's like, those writers come up with, for Jimmy Fallon, they come up with a monologue. It is a collaborative effort. There are 5, 6, 8 brains sitting around a table going, how about this idea? How about that idea? Well, how would I make that better? Or and I'm just doing that with ChatGPT. It's like my own personal writing
Well,
group,
and I think this
right?
speaks to like, use the tools that empower you to speak in your voice. So from my perspective, I do not consciously use AI. For me, writing is fuel. I say consciously because a lot of the systems now incorporate AI into them, whether or not they won't even let you turn it off. But I am fueled by writing. So for me, that is
like somebody else who likes to run.
Yes.
You're going to write whether you're writing for business or not.
Yes.
You see?
I do encourage people before they turn. I think you're actually a really good model of this. You do have a voice and you do write. You developed a voice before you turn to tools to help you put that voice out into the world. What I often find is that people have not developed a voice and they're looking for ChatGPT to give them one. That does not work. Good. So I encourage people to start by journaling. It doesn't need to be personal. It doesn't need to be a personal diary, but just start writing. It can be on a phone. It can be on a notebook. It can be on a computer. Start trying to write what's in your head so that you can figure out what your voice is. It's interesting. My husband and I have co-written this feature called Object Lesson for the magazine Antique since 2019. And I will say that the week before deadline is like not a time to be around us because co-writing and running a business with your partner is a bold plan. Both of us have very strong voices as writers. But one of the cool things that's happened over the past now more than 5 years is that our parents read these. They come out in print and our parents are subscribers. So our parents read these articles and they try to guess. They've made a game out of trying to guess who took the lead with that one. And as we've done it longer, they have gotten less and less accurate. They can't tell anymore because we figured out our voice. Figuring out your voice is super valuable. It's valuable for you as an individual. It's valuable for your company. It's valuable for what you put out in the world. It will help you in talking about what you do when you go to events. If you have opportunities for speaking engagements, I'm sure that the term elevator pitch, like learning how to say what you do in a succinct way, that is an inherently valuable practice. So I would encourage that if people want to use tools like ChatGPT or other writing assists, whether it's a human or AI, to really focus on developing a voice before they turn to those tools.
So I love that you called that out and clarified that, right? Because I think that when I explain this, I often forget that I wrote 3 books before ChatGPT was born. And at that point, I probably had done 700 interviews before ChatGPT was born. And I am never working in open AI. I am working in my content. Right. And so I love that you pointed that out and it's funny because I had a chairman of the board client a few months ago who I was encouraging. She has 10 people on her email list. Start talking to them. And it's interestingly, because I had forgotten when I was going on my rant about it, that I did say to her, hey, to get the best out of it, I said, have you ever written anything ever before? And of course, so many people have not, right? And I said, what about just personal journaling? Have you done that? I said, because if you can put that into the GBT, it will automatically understand better. You're at a better, I said, but you got to start teaching it who you are. And to me, it's the same process. If I'm going to be a collaborator on Jimmy Fallon's show, like I don't come in as a writer and just be like, okay, my highway, my ideas. It's like I get the room. I'm like, okay, what kind of content do we carry for Jimmy? Is he, you know what I mean? It's like you get the room, and the Chat GBT needs to get the room. And also too now, you know what? I've been using Chat GBT for 2.5 years, and I just started a week ago using the voice text. I'm like, oh my God, why have I not? Now I'm like, hey, here's what I'm thinking about. This is my point of view. I do not think an interior designer should blah, blah, blah. I said, go find the points from my book where I express this. Let's get an outline on how I'm going to create a solo episode about this. And I will say too, I like to write. Once I get that final thing, I'm now, when you were saying it's 2 hours, I'm like, once I have the final thing, I'm now going to judge that for probably another hour. And then what I always do is I come back and I say, this is why Diana makes fun of me, because it's like, I actually think it's like a person there. I come back and I say, hey, I just want to let you know, after we did all that work this morning on this solo episode, here is the final revision that I created. So you understand where my bar for excellence is, right? And so I'm constantly coming back going, we did a good job, but here's what the human did with it.
Well, I think something that you do that is really worth noting is you think critically about the tools that you use, and you are careful to both use tools that serve you and to then calibrate tools to serve you even better. I think that all listeners can take something from that, because everything's a tool, whether it's social media or a newsletter or a website or any of it. They're all tools. Right. And so how can you calibrate the tools to serve you and then put things into them that make them serve you even better? I think that's, we do not need to simply be happy with what we're handed. We can make it work for us. And I think a lot of the world of getting attention for the last couple of years has been reactionary. It's been, how do I change what I'm doing to have it hear me? And I'm really interested in, how do I build an audience that hears me because they want to be here?
Yeah. No, I think I love your perspective on all of this, Pippa. I think it's, what I know to be true is, if you're listening and it's hitting a nerve, then maybe it's the nudge you need to just really think about leaning more in to showing up as your real self in front of whatever it is, 10 people or 10,000, right? Because that's really the path through to, look, luxury, interior design is luxury, period. I don't care if somebody's giving you $200 to pick paint colors. They can walk in to a box store, take a swatch of paints and point and pick, right? It's not going to have the same result. It's going to be luck if it looks as good. So the point is, no matter if they've paid you 200 or they've paid you 200,000, it's luxury. And luxury is built on relationships and trust. And that's how that a luxury business it's the foundation is the human behind the business recognizable? Are they trustworthy? Do they say what they're going to do when they say, and do it when they say they're going to do it? It's like, can I rely on them? And, conveying yourself through words and video, if that's your way to do it, is extremely powerful and is a quick up the ladder to getting there than putting out, like you said, an image that doesn't say anything behind it, right?
I think you hit on so many really important things there, but one in particular is that we are in the business of wants, not needs, and luxury is about relationships. And I am very happy to be in the business of wants, not needs. I do not say that in a way that is dismissive of it whatsoever. We were joking early on the call that my husband and I are unabashedly materialistic. We care about stuff. Like that is who we are. It's funny when people say, oh, I want experiences more than things. I'm like, yeah, but more things, please. So we're in this business where what matters is the relationships we build. That's how people fall in love with what you do. There are so many people who can make a room beautiful, but there's only one you. So how do you show up?
Right. I love it. I'm not even going to attempt to follow that up. I think that is just such a perfect, tying the bow on a conversation that really is all about figuring out the best way for you to convey who and what you do to the people that you want to do it for. And so, and I think this newsletter thing is a great, valuable vehicle for doing that. So Pippa, my new bestie, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. I knew I would love this conversation. Like I said, it's one thing when somebody I know likes somebody, but when somebody I love somebody, then like I said, I'm there. So I'm grateful for Kate for introducing the two of us. And I look forward to meeting you in real life one day. I think that'll be fun to meet you and Ben. I would love to probably get up to your space and see these crazy, amazing things that you restore and create and design yourselves. So thank you for being here, Pippa.
Thank you so much for having me, LuAnn.
I just have to say how serendipitous this conversation with Pippa was. I tell you guys all the time, things happen. Like there's like a thing that happens in my mind here, and then another thing happens here, and another thing happens here, and none of them seem related. And then all of a sudden, one other thing happens, and bang, it all makes sense. I get that clarity moment. And this is what happened in this episode as well. If you listen to my April 25th episode, 2025, it's linked in the notes, you heard my big announcement about how I'm revamping the podcast. You did not hear, by the way, for the record, that I'm canceling the podcast or I'm stopping the podcast or I'm slowing the podcast down. None of the crazy rumors that are going around, my friends. Please stop repeating the rumors. The podcast is simply being revamped. So as my team and I were discussing the changes for the podcast, we kept circling back to our newsletter, or lack thereof of our newsletter, right? I've done them over the years. Some months and years they've been every single week. Others they've been sporadic at best. But we're working on that. And just now, as we're working on that, this episode with Pippa comes along. And I was like, I've got a front row seat to the best advice on how to do this, right? Now, also, on the April 25th episode, I mentioned that we're creating Inside Voice. So if you're on my email list and you like to know the things that I do and where I go and all of that, that's the base information you want, great. But if you want some behind the scenes, if you want, what's happening as I redo this podcast and all those extra stuff, then go to LuAnnNigara.com/inside voice. Okay? Because my team is always saying, share the behind the scenes, tell them what happened, tell them your aha moment, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, nobody cares. So here's the thing. If you care and you want to know it, then great. Prove me wrong to my team that you do want to know these things. And if you don't, then I'm not going to bug you with them, because that was my concession to my team. I'm like, all right, fine. We're not doing all of this for everybody. Not everybody wants it. So put your hand up if you want it. LuAnnNigara.com/inside voice. And when we start that content, you'll get it. Now, here's the thing. I want to walk through some of the key points that Pippa made because they are really good. First, she drove home that email marketing is not dead. It's actually our most powerful tool. Why? Because we own it. We're not at the mercy of an algorithm. Pippa said when she sends an email, 70 to 85% of her subscribers open it. Whereas when she posts on Instagram, maybe 10% of her followers see it, right? So Pippa had this brilliant analogy that stuck with me. I think for most people, she said, social media is junk food and newsletters are protein. I love that. And you do not want to turn your protein into junk food because then it's just junk food too. This is a great observation on her part. And she's right. Social media gives it that quick dopamine hit, likes, follows, shares. But newsletters are an opportunity to build real substance, real relationship with the people who are interested in your design and your business. It might be 20 people, but 20 people who are interested. People are always at all different points in the buying cycle. So somebody might find you on Instagram, sign up for a newsletter, follow you for years, and then finally, when the moment is right and they're going to hire a designer, it's you. Because they didn't just see you once 2 years ago or 4 years ago on Instagram and forget about you. You've been teaching them and talking to them and sharing with them all along, okay? And it's the protein that actually fuels your body as well as your business growth. So that's why it's crucial to teach and to treat our newsletter differently than our social content, okay? So don't just jump in, according to Pippa, and I agree with her, your Instagram captions into an email. Don't just pop them in and call it a day. Your newsletter needs to be nutritious content that truly nourishes your relationship with your audience. Hence why mine has been missing off and on, because if I've got nothing good to say or I haven't taken the time to say something good, I just said to my team like about 1.5 years ago, like, what is the point of a newsletter that just says what's on the podcast every week? Like literally, it's in your podcast app. So that's when I stop. But now I'm ready to get going again, and I'm ready to have that communication again. All right. The second thing from Pippa was consistency matters more than frequency. Pippa sends hers twice a month. Not often enough that people resent it, she says, but regular enough that people remember who she is. And here's the kicker. She said, keep that opening under 600 words. That was interesting to me. All right. She said it should be the email people don't regret getting. Love that. The third lesson from Pippa is find your voice. I loved how Pippa talked about moving from dry corporate speak to authentic storytelling. And I do a lot of writing in my collaboration with ChatGPT. Okay. And yes, I said collaboration. All right? You cannot have it write everything for you. Create a custom GPT. Refine your voice. Give it other things to work with. This is like having your own personal writer's room, right? It's the collaboration. It's the challenge. Don't forget the GBTs, the AI hallucinates. So be careful. Pay attention. Your brain can't be sleep mode while you do this. You have to be engaged. All right. And also, since this episode, I've learned that Claude is actually a better writer companion. I haven't started using it yet, but I'm probably going to go over there. Feeling a little funny leaving my special GBT behind. Having a little guilt over that. They're not going to make a movie out of me someday with this. Nah. Right? But look, teach your AI what matters to you, how you think, how you speak, what your thoughts are about every part of your process, so that when you begin the collaboration, it gets to a good result faster. All right? Maybe your team actually helps you write your newsletter. Maybe you don't do it with AI, or maybe you hire this task out entirely. There is no shame in that game. I know many, many designers and window treatment professionals who work with Stephanie Hamilton at Hamilton Creatives, including myself, including WindowWorks, including Exciting Windows, right? Stephanie is the one and her team who creates the newsletter, all right? And some of the things that I see that she does for other designers and window treatment professionals, when I get them, I'm like, whoa. That's so good. And by the way, If Nigara doesn't say at least once every other week, Stephanie and her team are amazing, I don't know. I mean, literally. Another marketing pro that I highly recommend if you want to get into email sequences and newsletters and things like that is Kay Whitaker. Kay has been on the show several times as a Power Talk Friday expert. She was one of the co-authors in my first Power Talk Friday experts book, and she did an entire episode about email marketing. It's episode 274. That's an oldie, but it's a goodie. We'll link it in the show notes for you. All right. We've also created a handy newsletter do's and don'ts guide based on Pippa's wisdom, and you will find that goodie also. So you go to LuAnnNigara.com/goodies, or the link is in the show notes. It's a perfect quick reference as you start or as you refine your own newsletter strategy. Do yourself a favor and check out Pippa's work at Quittner. That's QuittnerHome.com, Quittner home.com. And you know what? Maybe sign up for her newsletter so that you get a little inspiration about the things that they do and they create, but also just observing how she really goes about creating a masterful newsletter that really has a lot of engagement and is bringing tremendous ROI to their business, right? And as I said, I would love for you to join my new newsletter, Inside Voice. And so that link will be in the show notes as well. Thank you, Pippa, so much. This was such a fun, great conversation, and the timing was perfect for me. I appreciate it so much. And thank you for listening. I just love that you show up, and I just hope that, you remember that sometimes the best marketing tool isn't always the newest or flashiest. Sometimes it's the one that lets you show up authentically and build real relationships. And before I go, I'm going to give one more shout out to Kate Wood for connecting Pippa and myself. And seriously, in this business and life and everything in between, it's about the relationships. And it's about each of us coming and giving and sharing and exchanging. And this is what makes our industry better every day. It makes a big difference. Okay? So keep doing that, making those connections and building those relationships, and keep showing up as a good human to your peers, to your consumers, and it will be returned to you. All right? Thank you. Thank you. Decide to be excellent. Thank you for joining me today. This podcast is a production of LuAnn Nigara, Inc. If you want to know more about me, my books, or LuAnn University, go to LuAnnNigara.com. And if you are interested in having WindowWorks help you with your next window treatment or awning project in the New York, New Jersey metro area, go to WindowWorksNJ.com to learn more. Have an excellent day.